Yo, JD here, and as you can see by today's video, this is something a little bit different. This is one that I've been wanting to make for quite a while now. I have held fire in this because I really wanted to spend quite a bit of time with the product. I think a cockpit is probably the biggest investment you can make in terms of your sim racing journey, and I definitely wanted a couple of months to really get myself used to this, rather than spending a week or 2 weeks. Every day you're getting more comfortable, you're learning something new, and you can see by the title of this video, we're going to be reviewing the Fanatec Clubsport GT Cockpit. And yeah, really looking forward to this. I'll be giving you the list of the things I like about this, things that I think that could be improved, and then also just my recommendations in general. So if you did like this video, make sure you do give it a like, and if you do have any questions at all, post it down in the comments. Consider becoming a YouTube member by clicking the join button. You get access to all my setups and you can speak to me directly as well. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. So over the years, I've been pretty fortunate when it comes to cockpits. I've had things such as the GT Omega, Next Level Racing, Track Racer, SimLab, and my latest cockpit I had was the PlaySeat Ultimate. All of them are very different styles, different designs and materials, ranging from the GT kind of style cockpits to my latest cockpit I had was pretty much a true Formula design in terms of the seat positioning. So when I was looking at cockpits recently, I was looking for one that would definitely be more in the GT style. Main reason for that is because I'm becoming a little bit of an old man these days, have some lower back issues, and I just needed something that would give me a little bit more support in the lower back, and I think just being a little bit more upright gives you a little bit better posture position, just makes it a lot more comfortable on the joints, everything and that as well. So I was looking around, and when I came across this cockpit, it has the word GT in it. So I thought, yeah, why not give it a go? And I think if we're just going to be starting off with the pros straight away, kind of leads me into this nicely. I think the first thing I can say about this cockpit is just the look and design of it. And I know this is quite subjective and it's down to personal preference, but for me, I think this cockpit just looks really, really good. It actually feels and looks like a real racing cockpit. So if you were going to like a GT car or like a British touring car where they kind of have that roll cage effect, it really does kind of resemble this quite nicely. And I don't know what it is, but I've had aluminium cockpits in the past, and don't get me wrong, I don't think they look ugly or anything like that at all, but they probably look a little bit more like a logo brick than an actual racing cockpit itself. It's the same when you're driving a car. If you have a nice interior where it's kind of wrapped around you, and for me it just feels a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more stealth-like, it just makes you feel a little bit better as you're driving it. So yeah, it's not going to add to performance, but I think just the tubular design really attracted me to this cockpit, and I think it just looks really sleek, really professional, and definitely resembles, again, a lot more of what a real racing cockpit would be. The next thing I absolutely love about this cockpit is just the level of comfort. Again, my main issue I had with my previous cockpit of the PlaySeat Ultimate wasn't because it was a bad cockpit or anything at all. I would say if you're looking for a true Formula position, there pretty much isn't a better option compared to the PlaySeat Ultimate. But for me, it was just really the level of comfort. So again, can be down to your body structure and just what your needs are. But for me, I needed something where I could be spending a lot of hours in, because I do a lot of coaching, a lot of videos, a lot of practicing for league races, things like that. This cockpit is without the doubt, especially due to the seat, not just the positioning, but the seat itself is just a next level of comfort. It's probably the biggest cockpit seat that I have ever used. The padding on it has this material where it doesn't make you too hot. It's kind of like a netted mesh material. So for me, I'm a fairly big guy, I would say, 6 foot, about 100 kilos. It gets very, very hot in my room. And I've had cockpits in the past where, even though they've been more of a bucket seat, obviously in real life we have G-forces. That is very useful when you're kind of sliding from side to side. in the virtual world, we don't really have that issue. So although the bucket seats might be really cool to look at and to sit in, they're not actually that practical, and most of all, they're not really that comfortable for long durations of time. But this seat here, I think, could pretty much accommodate anyone. Again, the seat is absolutely massive, but it is just super, super comfortable. I haven't had any back issues, any postural issues, any aches and pains, and when I'm putting forces through the wheel through to the seat itself, it just absorbs it really, really well. So by far, I think the comfort level of this rig, not just the seat, but just the positioning, other things I'll be getting into a little bit more in this review, it just makes it an absolute joy to sit in, and I could sit in this all day very, very comfortably. Whereas with my old rig, I could probably only do really 90 minutes to 2 hours at a time, and then I would be paying for it the next day with lower back issues, stiffness in the upper back, things like that as well. So in terms of comfort, this is an absolute 10 out of 10 for me. The next thing I absolutely loved about this rig, and this might not be a big deal for actually many people, but for me it definitely is actually the build process was the easiest I've ever done with a cockpit. And I'm absolutely useless when it comes to DIY and building things. Don't get me wrong, I think it's always a good idea to have two people helping you whenever you're building a cockpit, just so you can get things very precise, and it's just a lot easier compared to if you're doing it by yourself. So I had my amazing girlfriend help me to make me feel a little bit more like a man and putting this rig together. But what I really liked about this product, and Fanatec have this on their website, they've done videos of the build, which I'll link or even show on the screen here. Many other reviews have actually showed the build process, but it's basically almost half completed for you when it comes out the box. And one thing I really did appreciate, and you might be surprised by this, is that the actual parts were labeled and the corresponding bolts were labeled as well. You'd be shocked by how many rigs I've built in the past, and I've had about 5 or 6 now, where things are not actually labeled, and they have the instructions of the bolts and everything, but they're all in one pack sometimes, which is an absolute nightmare if you've ever built a rig before. So when everything is corresponded to each other, it's practically half built as well, because the tubes on either side, you're basically just connecting them together, then you're adding on the seat, then you're adding on the pedal plate, wheel plate, and that is it. And I think this rig, between myself and my girlfriend, took under 2 hours, which for some people might be a long time, but trust me, when I was building my aluminium profile rigs in the past with those famous T-butt bolts, if you know what I mean, you will definitely know what I mean. They are very good bolts, but they're an absolute nightmare to get into place. And I think when I built my last aluminium profile rigs, that took about 12 hours in total, so it was probably like a 2-day process. This, I think, even by yourself, this is really, really not bad at all, because again, it's practically half assembled for you. The bags, instructions are all corresponded with numbers. It is just very, very simple to follow. And although you're building something once, honestly, I just really appreciated that it was actually that easy to build. So thumbs up for me. The next thing is definitely the rigidness of the cockpit itself. When you actually combine both sides together with the bolts and attach everything, complete the full build, it is a very, very heavy product. It's not something you can just really slide around. You definitely need to be using 2 people if you wanted to do that. There is practically no flex whatsoever. Is it going to be as good as an aluminium profile with the T-butt bolts and the way they have that structured? Probably not. But for me, with the wheel I'm using a load cell pedal as well. I use quite a lot of force feedback, and the load cell I have is not super, super high. For me, there is absolutely no flex at all. I've recorded it from all angles, and I think this is probably the main thing, along with the comfort. You want a platform in where you're going to be putting forces through the wheel, through the pedals, through the rig itself, that it's not going to be shaking around, it's not going to be distracting for you, anything like that. You want something that is nice and solid, and particularly this pedal plate. This pedal plate is an absolute beast. It's probably the biggest pedal plate I've ever come across when I've been doing sim racing, and this thing weighs an absolute ton. I think it weighs about like 20 kilos itself in the pedal plate. So once you've bolted this down, this is absolutely not going anywhere. Again, compared to aluminium profile, if you were having like a proper direct drive wheel with 20 newton meters of torque, and you're having 120 plus kilo load cell, and you're having a motion rig underneath it, then yeah, probably an aluminium profile would give you that little bit extra rigidness that you would need. But I would say for 90% of people, if you're not going to be doing those things, this is going to be absolutely perfect. I've had absolutely no issues with that. You'll be surprised how many issues I have had in the past where things come loose, things rattle, shake around. Because this is a tubular design as well, you don't have these T-nut bolts, which is something I loved and hated about the aluminium profiles. You don't have these rattles, you don't have these shakes, and it just gives me the perfect level of rigidness. The next thing I really like, and there is also a little bit of a con to this as well, which we'll get into in a second, is the adjustability. This rig is just very, very easy to adjust and make changes. All you have to do for the wheel plate, for example, and the wheel distance between where you're sitting and how far the wheel is and from for you, is that you just simply unwind these handles and you can move the wheel backwards and forward. It's exactly the same with the pedals as well. They are built into the rig, so that is very, very good. It's very easy. If you wanted to adjust the angle, you would have to just loosen some bolts a little bit, a couple of bolts, and do that. But most of the time, when you are setting up a rig and you've been playing it for a while, you're not going to be changing this on a week-to-week basis. So yeah, adjustability is very easy, but once you get it in place, normally I would recommend to stick with that. However, one of the issues I actually do have with this rig is also the adjustability. So one thing I would like, or would have liked to have seen, definitely with the wheel plate and even the pedal plate as well, is on my Placey Ultimate, when you did these adjustments in the same way, you literally just unclipped it and then reclipped it and it would lock into place. With this, you can't use a screwdriver or an Allen key. You're literally just twisting this round to the right, clockwise, and trying to make it as tight as possible by your hands. Then it locks into place. So I would have liked something that would have been a little bit more secure, which kind of snaps into place and there is no way for it to come loose. Hasn't happened yet. I've been using it for 2 months and these bolts or these handles haven't come loose at all, especially on like the wheel and pedals. Nothing has come loose. So not really an issue, but I would have liked definitely just a bit more of a secure attachment to lock something into place. Again, you definitely just want confidence with your rig, you want that rigidness, and you just want that security and support when you're playing, that nothing is going to be coming loose no matter what you do to it. So that's something I would have liked. However, I think a bigger issue with the adjustability, and this again depends on how you actually set up the rig itself. With the pedal plates, you physically can't actually unwind this handle at all on the pedal plate. If you have it too low, it goes against the profile, the tubing. So I'm not sure if that's a design flaw. You can't just lift it straight up and twist it. I've already tried that. So I'm not sure if that is a design issue that they have with that. Doesn't actually affect me. I'm 6 foot tall, and the way I have my seat wheel position pedals, there's absolutely no issues. I'm not having to reach for it. You can see I've got quite a bit of bend in my leg as well. So yeah, not too much of a bend. But if you were someone who was a little bit more on the taller side, there's something you might want to consider. Or if you're shorter as well, you wanted to bring it closer, this is also something you might need to consider, because the closer you bring it to, the more you can't actually turn that. So I think there actually might be a little bit of a design default when it comes to the pedal plate itself. Another con I would say about this rig is the integrated monitor mount, and this is something I actually do love about the rig as well. This is probably the best integrated monitor mount I've actually used. I think the distance between myself or itself and the wheel and where I'm playing couldn't have really made it any better. You can put it a little bit further away if you need to. Only issue with this integrated monitor mount is that you can't actually change the angle. So the mount itself is actually kind of looking up a little bit, and you can't force it to look down more. So I think a lot of drivers, when they do drive in this GT position, you probably would want the monitor to be angled a little bit more towards the floor. With this one, and the way it's set up and the way you have to bolt it in, this is something I've seen from other reviews as well. This is something you actually can't change in terms of the angle. So I was very much used to, in my play seat, having, obviously sitting in a much lower position, I needed the monitor to be angled more towards me to the floor. So if you wanted your seat lower in this, you're kind of forced. I was kind of forced to put my seat a little bit higher in order for this not to be so much of an issue. So if you're someone who wants to sit a little bit lower, have your hands a bit higher, this could be a little bit of an issue for you. So I think that's something hopefully they will fix for the future. Other reviewers haven't had too much of an issue, but when you're in a GT style position, most of the time you will be sitting a little bit higher than the wheel itself. But if you wanted to try and change the approach of kind of something in between the GT and the Formula style, this is something I think to keep in mind. You can't change the monitor mount. This is as far as it goes down in terms of the angle itself. But overall, this hasn't really been so much of an issue for me. And just one minor thing, and you might see it in some of the clips I put on the screen here, the seat itself does have a little bit of a flex. I think it's probably the way I've actually bolted it in. I'll probably have to unbolt it and then change a few things to make it a little bit more rigid. Doesn't bother me really at all. If anything, I think sometimes when the seat is actually too rigid and has no flex, it can actually make it quite uncomfortable if you're doing it for many hours. For me, it doesn't affect how I brake, change the distance between me and the pedals or anything like that at all. So you can see it does have a little bit of movement when it comes to the seats, but everything else is absolutely rock solid. And I think the final thing would be the rig is quite expensive. So with the cockpit, the seat, the integrated monitor mount, this does come to just over 1,200 euros. You don't need to be spending this kind of money in order to really maximize your sim racing journey. Now, I've played on rigs, and not even on rigs, wheel stands attached to a desk. I know a lot of drivers, I think Carl, who races on PlayStation, he doesn't even have a rig, he just attaches it to a desk with the pedals just lodged against some books underneath. So you can get used to anything in a way, but I think if you were to try and get to your potential and to get the most rigidness and support possible, investing in a rig is definitely going to be a good idea, especially if you're using like a direct drive wheel and a load cell. For comparison, the Playseat Ultimate I had, my previous rig, was actually double the cost of this cockpit right here. So I honestly feel for the price, the rigidness, the comfort, the support, the adjustability, the ease of the build, this is a cockpit that I don't think I'm really going to have to change for many years to come. I think the only reason why I would change this cockpit in the future is if I saw another cockpit design-wise, I thought, oh, that looks a lot cooler, I might try that. In terms of what I need for my performance with the low cell pedals, my direct drive wheel, the comfort, the seat positioning, there is absolutely no reason to change this cockpit. So this is something you probably won't be buying every 2 to 3 years, and I think it's probably the most important part of your setup, especially if you have a direct drive and a load cell, is what you actually attach it to. And for me, this is by far the best rig that I have ever used. And in terms of my performances, because I'm so much more comfortable, I can be so much more consistent. I just feel much more confident in my inputs. With the Playseat I had before, there were a few rattles. That didn't have many support frames underneath the cockpit itself, so it did move around quite easily. With this, there has been absolutely no issue at all, and overall, I actually think it's pretty good value for money what it offers in return. So when you do buy a rig, consider it an investment. For me, this is something, again, I plan to keep for many years to come because it ticks every box that I need. Let me know your thoughts. Check out the links to Fanatec products down below in the description. If you have any questions, put one down below, and I will catch you very, very soon. Peace.